Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome to a new reaction, Don't Eat the Cake, the strange lore of POCHI science. Yeah, so, out of all the things I didn't think there'd be lore in, yeah, that's not one I thought I'd see, but yeah, so if you've never heard of POCHI science, it's like a series of shorts, and they revolve around this, like, little girl scientist, POCHI, and basically, like, the plot of the series is, a lot of the time, just go around to whatever, like, the most popular, like, mascot horror, like, franchise monsters are at the moment, and turn them into girls, like, cute girls. It's like, I've come across it on YouTube Shorts a couple of times. I think am I subscribed, actually? Let me just double check that. Nope, yeah, I'm subscribed. But yeah, they do also, they focus on, like, a whole bunch of different things, like, what was it, like, I think, like, the earliest ones were, like, Amanda the Adventurer, Doors from Roblox, Rainbow Friends. Then they did a little bit of Huggy Wuggy, but then they did a little bit of Poppy Playtime with Huggy Wuggy, but then they switched, like, right over to doing the Digital Circus. It was weird. Very weird. I mean, like, there's nothing, like, lewd. Well, I guess there's a little bit, but, like, it's more just weird, cutesy. Actually, the animation in some of the fight scenes is, you know, pretty good for, like, you know, what the budget is of them, I would imagine. But still, it's very hard to. I know with the cake that they're talking about in this episode, or at least most likely, I think they're going to be talking about the cake that was sort of like the centerpiece of the section of the series going through like Digital Circus characters, because like Red, the scientist from Rainbow Friends, who was turned into a little girl before, I'm guessing wanted to, like, have the effect be used on POCHI, but then something happened. The cake was sent through a portal and was sent to, like, the digital dimension of the Digital Circus, and then just the characters, one by one throughout this, throughout the Digital Circus world, just ended up having pieces of the cake and, you know, being pochified. I don't know what you could call it, but yeah, it's weird. But again, I'm still trying to figure out, like, what lore could be going on here. I mean, granted, this could be the strange lore of POCHI science. They could very much be, like, you know, groundwork sort of thing, just going over the lore of the series as it exists. But I didn't think there was that much lore, because again, it's like, it's a short series. It's not voice acted in any way. Granted, that could be just me, because, you know, with the way I am, I can be kind of oblivious to this sort of stuff unless I'm, like, going over everything with, like, a fine-tooth comb and stuff like that. But hey, what do you know? I've rambled on for long enough. So yeah, I didn't say it before because I kind of got sidetracked, but this is a request. So, you know, just for future reference, I do take requests for reactions and stuff. But yeah, of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video linked to my Let's Play today. And as I said before, if you have any suggestions for stuff for me to react to, you can either leave them in the description down below or go onto my Discord server and use the actual suggestion channel to actually link the videos. That way it's easier for me to find them. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
The cake. I'm sure recently you've seen these shorts on YouTube, right? The
yes.
one where a scientist turns horror characters into cute anime girls. Well, what if I told you there's more than meets the eye here, fellas? Because these shorts have a lore, and I'm gonna explain it to you. Because this isn't just.
Please, very much do. I am very confused here. Very much. Very.
Some cutesy scientist trying to protect herself from otherworldly abominations. No, no, no. This girl is a tyrannical mastermind amassing a brainwashed anime harem of addicted monsters to take over the universe as we know it. And they're more than willing to destroy anyone who gets in their way of universal domination. Don't believe me? Then let me show you. But trust me when I say the cake really is a lie. So what's this lore I've been talking about? After all, if you've only seen 1 or 2 of these shorts, you might just think they don't have a lore. They're just turning monsters into anime girls. So let's go over the timeline in order, and I'll go over all the key details and point things out as we go along. Before basic premise,
I'm
though,
with
the series
Pomni on
follows a
this one.
scientist named Pochi and their robot who I'll call Waifu Bot. Pochi's main gimmick is using this reddish pink substance to, again, turn monsters into anime girls. Canonically, it's called Pixie Tinkle, but for ease of writing, I'll be calling this substance Animexia because I don't want to be forced to say Pixie Tinkle every few seconds.
Yeah, let's just be completely clear. I'm with them. I had no idea that's what its actual name was. Okay.
On the official community post, we can get some more lore on this substance. However, there's some language of note I'd like to point out. Its purpose is to forcibly reorganize the target's genome, eliminating aggressive tendencies and transforming a threatening appearance into an acceptable one. So with that important note out of the way, let's get on to the episodes. Our first episode starts with
that's not that's not kind of threatening at all. Though granted, I mean most of the time this substance is only used on like actual like threatening monsters. So I guess you kind of see it as a good thing, but it again, really weird.
Seek from Roblox doors. Pochi, upon being presented with Seek, excitedly presses a button. Although Seek appears worried and tries to block it, they are violently beamed with a ray of animexia, to which they become anime. In the short, they dance to the song Internet Yamaro from the game Needy Streamer Overload. Despite this though, they appear very uncomfortable the entire time, almost as if they're being forced to dance. Just look at their face here. That does not look like somebody willingly wanting to do this. Next episode, we get Screech from the same franchise, to which they are boinked with a crucifix, smushed, flailed around at high speed, and then beamed with a brand new version of the beam. This turns Screech into an anime girl as well, albeit much happier than the last experiment, dancing to Tokyo from Lead to Q. Despite this, they are quickly imprisoned with these white chains. Now, here's where we enter the Amanda
Adventurer ones, yeah.
Trying to kill Wooly, where we get our first appearance of Waifu Bot. The thing about this is that they clearly entered Amanda's world, being the first showcase that they can and will travel to different universes, which will be confirmed far more bluntly later on. Amanda is sucked into a